Okay, Dion, you can give me one second. You can get started.
Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you are watching this broadcast. Yes, live here from Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Leon Rock, and this is All Things Black Politics. Yes, we talk about politics from Boston, Massachusetts, all the way to Washington, D.C. and places in between. And today we're talking politics about the burn, my good friends, the crash and the burn. Oh, I know you're saying, what are you talking about when you're talking about crash and burn? Well, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of crashing and there's a lot of burning going on. And actually, let's talk about the burn first. Yeah. In Washington, D.C., it is impacted, and across the nation, we are impacted by a burn that is happening, yes, in Canada, and has impacted the whole portion of the East Coast from, yes, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, yes, Rhode Island, and places in between all the way down to Washington, D.C. Yeah, it could be called a haze, but this smoke is the story, actually, in many ways, of this summer. After the smoke from the Canadian wildfires caused a air quality plummet across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and into Boston in recent days, some people are saying, hey, guess what? I'm putting back my N95 mask on. Yeah. Meteorologists are warning that the smoke from up north could impact the region for the next several weeks. Yeah, it's clearer now in Boston, but I'll tell you, that impact may have significant impact. I'm talking about the smoke may have a significant impact over the next couple of weeks. Meteorologists from AccuWeather, a senior meteorologist, John Kursak, has said that there is such a hazardous condition that the haze and smoke can continue to affect the region because the Canadian wildfires are out of control, and it doesn't appear to be in control at this point. These wildfires are in remote areas of northern Quebec where very few people live, said Kursak. It may be a while before the fires get extinguished. When the air quality drastically plummets, AccuWeather estimates that the breathing the polluted air for several hours can be compared to smoking 5 to 10 cigarettes. Yeah, there's a lot of particles in this smoke. This stuff is bad, my good friends. Yeah, bad for the lungs, especially for those that have asthma or other conditions that could be impacted by this toxic fire smoke. The East Coast is dealing with this situation, particularly in the Bay State area, my good friends. Yeah, it's smoke. It's smoke. It is smoke. This secondhand smoke is a respiratory irritant. And this irritant, in so many ways, says the director of emergency services over at Mass General Hospital, this irritant can shorten one's breath, and especially for those sensitive groups, which include children, seniors, and pre-existing respiratory and cardiac condition folks, yes, including pregnant folks, pregnant people. Yeah. If you're feeling any respiratory symptoms, go inside to a cool place and rest, says Goldberg, who also is an emergency medicine physician at Brigham's and Women's Hospital. People are especially in sensitive groups should try to limit their outside activities, particularly with regards to medications that they may be taking. They need to make sure that they take the proper medications during this time. Oh yeah, this is a burn, my good friends. But let's talk a little bit about what I talked about earlier, the crash. Oh, the crash is big. There's two crashes that are going on, actually three in many ways. Let me tell you about the first crash. The first crash is actually a physical crash. Yeah, something happened and it wasn't nice. It wasn't good. It wasn't good for anyone involved. Oh yeah, but a lot of people are putting too much into this, but I'm going to talk about it for a moment. And that is Boston Mayor Wu's police vehicle was involved in a crash. Yeah, and Mayor Wu was in the car. Yeah, it's been reported that Boston Mayor Michelle Wu said that she was not responding to an emergency on Tuesday when the police department cruiser in which she was riding attempted to pass through a busy intersection with lights and sirens activated and was struck by an oncoming vehicle. Get this, my good friends. It was not an emergency yesterday where they were headed, the mayor indicates. It's an incident that is under review. Yeah, the mayor said that she is reviewing documents on her phone at the time of the crash, which happened while she was en route to a meeting at Copley and was not seriously injured. Thank goodness, and thank God that she was not injured or seriously injured. Should you be able to use the lights and sirens to get through traffic? One of the reporters asked. Well, she responded, I'm happy to make sure that we are having that conversation. The first step in an internal review of every single incident that happens with the department's vehicles, Wu answered. A police report also indicates that it happened around 9:50 a.m. in the middle of the intersection between Hyde Park Avenue and Blakemore Street. Oh, there's more. The video from the crash shows that the traffic lights at the intersection were green for the vehicles traveling on Hyde Park Avenue. So the person that actually hit the mayor's vehicle had the right of way. The vehicles in the right travel lane of the southbound side of Hyde Park Avenue are seen coming to a quick stop as an unmarked vehicle makes its way from Blakemore Street to the intersection where the emergency lights were activated. Officer Kenya Smith was stopped at the red light then slowly approached the intersection to ensure that oncoming traffic outbound on Hyde Park Avenue were able to see and hear the cruiser entering the intersection, Smith wrote in a report about the collision. A vehicle traveling on the left traffic lane of the southbound side of Hyde Park Avenue, however, continued to travel into the intersection as an unmarked police vehicle attempted to make a left turn into the north side of Hyde Park Avenue. The civilian vehicle then struck the front driver's side of the fender of the police vehicle. Officer Smith was unable to avoid the collision due to vehicle number one's fast approach and did not stop or slow down for the cruiser's light and siren, the report states. Photos show Wu standing by the Boston Emergency Medical Services ambulance at the point after the crash. Wu said her back was feeling a bit stiff on Wednesday as a result of the crash that happened that day before. According to the police report, Wu, the driver of the civilian vehicle, and that woman's child also declined medical treatment. There was a child in the car, not Wu's car, but the other car that hit Wu's car. Smith reported pain on the left side of her body and was taken to the hospital for evaluation. She was discharged later, her report states. The police department will be investigating the crash as they do with all crashes involving department vehicles, according to a city spokesperson. The department said that there are procedures in place for turning on lights and sirens, but not a specific policy regarding when an officer would be allowed to use lights and sirens while transporting dignitaries such as the mayor. Well, that's pretty interesting because I know here in Washington, D.C., this is dignitary territory from across the country, if not around the world. And from time to time, while I'm in Washington, D.C., I do see dignitaries coming back and forth from meeting to meeting. And by the way, they do have police cruisers or entourage of police officers, and they do have blue lights and sirens on. That's a fact, particularly when it is the president, vice president, or other heads of state. But guess what? She is the head of state, well, the head of the city of Boston, so why not have the access to blue lights and sirens when necessary? That's just my observation. I could be right. Crash. And now the burn. Well, we already talked about the burn that is going on in the city of Boston and what is going on across the country, particularly in the East Coast side of the country in regards to the burning of forest up in Canada. But let's talk about another burn. And this one, by the way, I got to talk about this one because this is a pretty interesting burn. A very interesting burn, by the way, and a well ready for America burn. Here we go. Here's the latest, my good friends. I don't say his name much on this program. I'm going to say it again. I don't say much about this name on this program. I wanted to let him go. I got to drink a cup of coffee after talking about, before talking about this. Here's the deal, my good friends. I'm going to talk about this situation. Yeah, former President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has been indicted. Yes, Washington woke up on Friday to a reshaped political and legal landscape, my good friends. Yeah. After the Justice Department lodged a federal criminal charge or charges against former President Donald J. Trump, accusing him of mishandling classified documents he kept upon leaving office and then obstructing the government's efforts to reclaim them. Yeah, Trump confirmed on social media and his social media platform that he has been indicted. The charges against him include willfully retaining national defense secrets in violation of the Espionage Act, making false statements, and a conspiracy to obstruct justice, according to two people familiar with the matter. Oh, there's more. Yep, there's more. The criminal indictment is stemming from his handling of these classified documents, and it will be overseen as at least initially, by a federal judge who has a highly regarded court expertise. Yeah, Judge Aileen M. Cannon, who Mr. Trump himself appointed to the bench in 2020. His final year in office is scheduled, at least for now, to preside over the former president's first appearance in federal district court in Miami on Tuesday. Yeah. But it is not clear whether Judge Cannon will remain assigned for the entirety of Mr. Trump's case. Judge Cannon's involvement was earlier reported by ABC News. While the judges are typically given cases by a random process, it is also customary to hand incoming matters to judges who have dealt with related ones. Last fall, Judge Cannon presided over an unusually highly contentious legal battle between the Justice Department and Mr. Trump's lawyers over whether to pause the documents investigation so that an outside arbitrator could review thousands of records seized by the FBI from Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Trump's private club and residence in, yes, Florida. Ruling for Mr. Trump's, Judge Cannon effectively froze the significant portion of the government's inquiry, barring prosecutors from using the material seized at Mar-a-Lago for an investigative purposes connected against, Mr. Trump, until the work of the arbitrator, known as the special master, was finished. An appeals court sitting in Atlanta ultimately overruled the judge, yes, Cannon, scrapped the special master's review, and allowed the investigation of Mr. Trump to resume unhindered. In a sharply critical decision, a three-member panel of appeals court judge said that Cannon never had the proper justification to intervene in the case and order the review. The court also chided her for stopping the federal investigators from using files seized from Mar-a-Lago, saying there was no justification for treating Mr. Trump differently from any other target of a search warrant. It's indeed extraordinary for a warrant to be executed at a home of a former president, but not in a way that affects our legal analysis or otherwise gives judiciary license to interfere in an ongoing investigation, the court wrote. So guess what? This is the person that is going to be bringing Trump to court or hearing the initial case, the initial indictment. That's going to be interesting, by the way. Oh, there is more to talk about. The Justice Department has made no comment and did not immediately make the indictment public. Trump is expected to surrender to authorities on Tuesday, according to a person close to him and his own post on social media platform, Truth Social, right? Judge Eileen Cannon, who Mr. Trump himself appointed to the bench, is scheduled, as I said, to preside over the first appearance in federal district court on Tuesday. Yeah. The indictment handed down in a federal district court in Miami is the first time a former president has faced federal charges. Did you hear that? This is the first time a former president has faced federal charges. It puts the nation, the United States, in extraordinary position, given that Trump's status not only is a one-time commander-in-chief, but also a current, and I don't get this myself, front runner for the 2024 Republican national nomination to face, Joe Biden, whose administration is now seeking to convict his potential rival on multiple felonies. The corrupt Biden administration, this is crazy. This is crazy. A lot of folks are talking about, they believe that the Biden administration is corrupt because they're attempting to convict a former president during a political nomination process. Well, that's what the folks are saying, is that the Biden administration is corrupt. I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that. All I know is that he's been indicted. The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, has been indicted in Miami, and he may even get some other charges here in Washington, D.C. The indictment filed by the Office of the Special Counsel, Jack Smith, came about 2 months after local prosecutors in New York City filed more than 30 felony charges against Mr. Trump in connection with his hush money payment to I shouldn't be talking about this part, but I have to because it's the facts. The hush money payment for a porn star during the 2016 election. Here's what else to know about this whole situation with Donald Trump. The federal grand jury that charged Mr. Trump with a total of 7 counts, according to 2 people that are familiar with the indictment. The precise detail of the charges are yet to be really clear. The indictment reaches back to the end of Trump's term in 2021, when the documents, many of which are said to be in the White House residence, were packed in boxes along with clothes, gifts, photographs, and other material, and shipped by the General Services Administration to Trump's private club and residence in Mar-a-Lago. Oh, there's more. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, Trump's main rival in 2024 nomination, responded to the indictment, saying that the weaponization of the federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to free society. Booyah, booyah. In Twitter posts, DeSantis seemed to question why Hillary Clinton and Biden the president's son, had not faced charges as well, but Mr. DeSantis, or Governor DeSantis out there in Florida, stopped short of saying he would pardon Mr. Trump if elected, instead promising he would bring accountability to the Justice Department. Yeah, Trump remains under investigation by federal counsel's office for a wide-ranging efforts to retain power after his election loss in 2020, and how these efforts led to the January 6th assault on the Capitol by pro-Trump mob. He is also being scrutinized for potential election interference violations by the district attorney's office in Fulton County, Georgia. Oh, he is crashing, he is crashing, he is crashing. I told you, this program is all about the crash and the burn. Yeah, the crash and the burn, my good friends. But there's more. Hold on. This week has been a twofer. Oh, a twofer. A twofer? Yeah, that's it. A twofer. I don't know how to say this, but I have to. I don't know how to say this, but I have to. And for those that respected and love this person, my condolences. Pat Robinson, a televangelist, has died. I'm going to say it again. Pat Robinson, a televangelist, has died. Well, this program is about telling the truth. This program is about telling the truth about body politics. From Boston to Washington and places in between. So I'm going to tell the truth, but I'm going to tell the truth in a different way. I'm going to let some other truth tellers tell the truth. Pat Robinson, a televangelist, has died. And the fact is that this televangelist had made a career, unfortunately, spewing racism, homophobia, and misogyny. That's a fact. Actually, I'm going to share with you a report about Pat Robinson and the loss of Pat Robinson. But I'm going to share this report, and this report is straight out of Democracy Now! By the way, Democracy Now! Is a organization that protects democracy in so many ways. Democracy Now! Is reporting on the longtime evangelist or televangelist, Pat Robinson, who died at the age of 93. In 1960, Robinson created the Christian Broadcast Network and for decades used his, flagship program, 700 Club, as a platform for homophobia, religious bigotry, and racist hate talk. Well, that's what's being said by Democracy Now! I respect the organization and its capacity to actually do good, if not great, reporting. In 1988, Robinson ran the Republican Party's presidential nomination, taking second place in Iowa's caucus. Robinson's strong performance cemented the Christian coalition he founded as a major force within the Republican Party. In 2001, Robinson blamed liberal feminists and gay people for the 9/11 attacks. He once claimed AIDS was God's way of weeding his garden. Did you hear that? He once claimed that AIDS was a way of God's approach to weeding his garden. Robinson raised funds for the Contra death squads in Nicaragua and publicly called for the assassination of the world's leaders, including Libya's Muammar Gaddafi and Venezuela's Hugo Chavez. In the mid-1990s, during the Rwanda genocide, Robinson appealed to his audience for money to fly relief planes for Rwanda refugees in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Instead of carrying humanitarian aids, planes bought by Robinson's charity mostly transported equipment for diamond mining operations. Well, what can you say? Condolences to the family of Pat Robinson. There's a whole host of folks on the internet talking about the loss of Pat Robinson. If you can't say anything good about someone, don't say it at all. I just wanted to give you a reality check with regards to his background and history in the past. Well, crash and burn. Yeah, we talked about the crash of the mayor's vehicle. And by the way, it was not her fault. And blue lights, as I said, should be allowed. Oh, yeah, we talked about the burn. Yeah, of what is going on in Massachusetts and around the Eastern Seaboard with regards to the burning of forests in Canada and how it's impacting the city of Boston and across the eastern part of the country, including Washington, D.C. And we've also talked about the burn, the Justice Department indicting the former president of the United States on multiple felony charges, including accusing him of mishandling classified documents and obstructing government's attempts to recover them. Yeah. We talked about the fact that Trump is the first former president ever to face federal criminal charges. And we talked about the fact that in a video posted on social media platform, Truth Social, Trump lashed out against the Biden administration and insisted, "I am an innocent man." Well, we've heard that innocence talked about over and over again when Richard Nixon was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And now Donald Trump is following that lead. Well, there's a whole bunch of people. There are a whole bunch of Black folks that see an irony in Trump's indictment. And some people are saying, what goes around comes around. Yep, there's a whole bunch of folks that are saying, what goes around comes around. Yeah, the exonerated five, formerly known as the Central Park Five, the wrongly convicted Black men Trump called to be executed in the 1989 newspaper ads, reacted to Trump's indictment in one word statement, comma. Woo, comma. That is true, my good friends. And the exonerated five, that's all they needed to say. And by the way, for Black America, that's all we need to say about Trump's indictment. Calmer. The indictment of Trump has the country at a standstill, as it marks the first time in the history of the United States that an ex-president and current president candidate has been indicted by a grand jury and charged with a crime. The NAACP, by the way, President Derek Johnson has said this unprecedented indictment proves that no one is above the law. I'm not too sure about that, Brother Derek Johnson, because there have been a class or a group of people that have been proven to be able to get away with murder for a long time. America has a history of allowing certain groups or certain stratification of people to get away with things because they are, in many ways, including Donald Trump, has played it hard and fast against the law. Yeah. But anyway, President of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, said, finally, the myriad of lawsuits that are pending, one will begin to bring him to justice and to cause him to pay for the harms he committed to the American people. Well, there's more. There is more. Civil rights activist Al Sharpton has also recalled Trump's demanding the death penalty for the exonerated five, says the statement, what goes around comes around. Well, it sounds like Black folks are saying, hey, Donald Trump, what goes around comes around. Calmer, my good friends. Calmer. Well, after the news broke about what has happened with the whole situation with Donald Trump, Black folks across the country seem to be excited about the fact that Donald Trump is finally going to be held accountable. Well, this indictment is coming after, even before, let us say, the situation occurs with Suffolk County District Attorney Fannie Willis in Georgia, who is trying to get him indicted for him allegedly trying to overturn the presidential elections. We're going to see how this plays out, my good friends. We will see how this plays out. This is All Things Black Politics live here from Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Leon Rock. We're talking politics, politics, and more politics. We've been talking about burn, 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 crash, crash, crash. What is going on in the city of Boston, in Massachusetts, and throughout the country regarding the whole issue of Donald Trump? Yeah, I have to tell you, I'm not well, let me say it like this. I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump. Never have and never will be. I think the system needs to work, and it has taken justice so long for Donald Trump. Speedy justice has taken long for Donald Trump, but hopefully we will find some justice happens. Yeah. Well, Donald Trump's case will be handled, as I was indicating earlier, by a judge who earlier made rulings in his favor. I don't know how this is going to play out in court now. It seems as though he has stacked the court in many ways. I'm going to say it again. It seems as though Donald Trump has stacked the court in his favor. Yeah, former President Donald Trump, and I never called him president. He was never my president. He was the president of the right wing. He was never the president. He was never a president that pulled people together. So he was never my president. Former President Donald Trump's criminal indictment charges stemming from his handling of these classified documents. Well, his case will be overseen at least initially by a federal judge who a higher court criticized for handing Donald Trump a series of unnecessary and unusually favorable rulings during early stages of this actual investigation, according to 5 people familiar with the matter. As I indicated earlier, Judge Eileen M. Cannon, who Mr. Trump himself appointed to the bench back in 2020, in his final year is scheduled, at least for now, to preside over former Donald Trump's first appearance in federal district court in Miami next Tuesday. Well, this seems to essentially contradict in many ways. It really does. It seems to contradict the whole issue of equal justice under the law. You know, I read to you a quote from the NAACP president. And the NAACP president seems to have a fog going on. That's not to insult, that's just to say that sometimes we can get foggy about where we believe things are. Yeah, the president, Derek Johnson, told a magazine just recently, the Griot, that the unprecedented, did I say that right? Unprecedented indictment proves that no one is above the law. Well, that has to do everything with an indictment, Mr. President Derek Johnson of the NAACP. But indictment and conviction are 2 different things. And if the facts play out, and if Eileen M. Cannon, who is the federal judge that oversaw the handling of a ruling that supported Donald Trump earlier in the investigation, if she is the one that is scheduled to at least preside over the president's first appearance in federal district court on Tuesday, and if she continues, then all that commentary about no one is above the law is just commentary. It's not real. It's not real, my good friends. I wish, and this is not to insult the NAACP by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that the NAACP needs to actually become more grounded at the national level, more grounded in how they approach the conversation about Donald Trump. Sometimes we have to just shh and wait. Because these comments about no one is above the law because he received an indictment means nothing. Didn't the United States Congress essentially want to two times impeach the president and actually impeach them? But the outcome was in question. When it went to the Senate didn't throw the bum out. Oh, sorry. Throw Trump out. Sorry about that. That was a misstatement. That banana has been peeled, huh? I don't understand why Black leaders don't get on the same train when it comes to having conversations about law and order. Be honest and say how it really is, rather than saying no one is above the law in the unprecedented indictment. Why not say that the indictment is an effort to show that no one should be above the law? It's all about the wordsmithing of things. Unprecedented indictment, and no one is above the law. Well, didn't Donald Trump say at one point that he could just go out into Times Square and actually cause pain on someone and not be convicted? I didn't want to use the word because he used it, but I'm going to leave that one alone. You know, because you remember what he said. Well, it has turned out to be in many ways a fact that Donald Trump has been able to get away with murder. This guy should have been charged in The Hague. He should have been charged in an international tribunal, an international court, for the killing of 1 million Americans, for his mismanagement of the COVID crisis or the COVID epidemic or pandemic. That's what should have happened a long time ago. He should have been charged in The Hague for international crimes against humanity. This one right here is a soft move, in my humble opinion. An indictment? He should have been indicted long ago for crimes against humanity. And the crimes against humanity actually are crimes against the American people. 1 million and more died from COVID. This guy is the guy that said at a press conference for folks to use what? To stop COVID? You remember. Didn't he say, try some disinfectant or some bleach or some craziness to stop COVID? And then people died doing it because he's the commander-in-chief at the time. They believed in him. He should have been charged with crimes, high crimes. But that's just my opinion. I could be right. This is All Things Black Politics, live here from Washington, D.C. I'm your host, Leon Rock. We're coming down to about 2 or 3 minutes left in this broadcast. I appreciate you all for coming in. Boston Black News for allowing me to share with you some observations, some opinions, and obviously some information and data on what is going on in politics in Boston, Washington, D.C., and around the country. Oh, and as you can tell, I hold no hostages. I tell what I believe based on information and data, the facts and the truths, and I hope you appreciate it. Well, we talked crash, and burn today. Again, my condolences to the family of, yes, Pat Robinson, televangelist. And for those that weren't feeling Pat Robinson and his history, well, that's over now. Let it go. It's over. And for those that don't appreciate Donald Trump and his history, I'm going to say to that too, let it go. It's okay. It's going to be over. Hopefully, with this indictment, he's not just charged, but convicted. Hopefully, it has some impact on the body politics of Washington, D.C. moving forward. We will know later. This has been All Things Black Politics, live here from Washington, D.C. I am your host, Leon Rock. We'll see each other next week at this time at 11 o'clock. Again, thank you for joining in. We will see you next week at 11 o'clock again on Boston Black News. Have a good day.